last lesson for this chapter. Okay, we're going to rewrite equations and formulas. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have equations and formulas that have lots of different variables in them, and we're going to choose one variable to solve for. Okay, so for example, this one says solve for y. Okay, so we are going to solve for y, get y by itself. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is move this negative 2x over to the other side. Okay, so since it's negative, we're going to add 2x to both sides. So then I have 3y still left on the left side. And then on the right side, I have 2x plus 6. Notice that doesn't become 8x because there's no x with the 6. So it becomes 2x plus 6. Last thing, to get my y by itself, I have to divide everything by 3. So I take all of my numbers, divide them all by 3. So on the left side, I get y equals 2 divided by 3 is not a whole number, so we're going to leave it as a fraction. So 2/3 x plus 6 divided by 3 does end up being a whole number, so we're going to write it as 2. If it wasn't a whole number, you could write it as a fraction, just like we did with the 2/3. Okay, so just some wording that I want you to be aware of. Sometimes they'll say solve for x. Sometimes they might say write the equation so that y is a function of x. Okay, so it means the same thing. Solve for x. Solve for y, sorry. Okay, so y is there by itself, so I need to move the 2x over. Since 2x is positive, we're going to subtract it over to the other side. So we get y equals negative 2x plus 7. Since there's no number in front of the y, we don't have to do any division. That would be your answer. Y equals negative 2x plus 7. Okay. So that's if you have x's and y's. Sometimes we might use examples or equations that have lots of different variables. Okay. They will tell you what variable they want you to solve for. So for instance, in this case, they want us to solve for h. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get the 2b away from my h. Okay, so 2b is positive, so we're going to subtract it over to the other side. So now I have s minus 2b equals p times h. So then to get h by itself, okay, when I said that, I said p times h, inverse operation of multiplication would be to divide. Okay. So I'm going to have s minus 2b over p is equal to h. Okay. It is easier to write your answer like this. Okay. Even though we divided by p and we just can't simplify like we did with our 3 before where we had 2/3 and 6/3. Okay, so it's just easiest to write it like that. All right, next one uses our perimeter equation that we talked about earlier this chapter. Okay, we're going to solve for w. Okay, that's just a cursive L. Sometimes people use that for length instead of writing the uppercase L. So we're going to get this by itself, so 2w by itself. So we're going to subtract 2l from both sides. So I'm going to have p minus 2l equals 2w. Then we're going to divide everything by 2. Again, I'm just going to rewrite it. So p minus 2l all over 2 is equal to w. Okay. Last one uses surface area. Okay, we won't get to surface area this year, but you will with geometry. So we're going to solve for r. So if you notice, there's no addition sign, there's no subtraction sign, there's no fraction. Okay, all of these are being multiplied. So it's 2 times pi, which is again a number, times r times h. What is the inverse operation of multiplication? Okay, it's division. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by everything except my r. So that's the 2, the pi, and the h on both sides. So I'm going to have s over 2 pi h is equal to my r.